Over the course of my career, I've had the great honor playing some of the greatest male role models.
Blake Lively has just faced a major legal setback as the judge has dismissed her claims against Jed Wallace for the second time, dealing a significant blow to her ongoing battle. What many initially thought was a decisive win for Lively is now turning into a complicated and misunderstood chapter in this high-profile feud. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni is not backing down. His legal team has come forward to clarify the record, explaining that no deadlines were ever missed, and the decision not to amend their complaint was an intentional, strategic move, one designed to preserve their right to appeal rather than close the door on the case. In other words, what the tabloids framed as surrender was actually careful legal positioning. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor. If I were like most entertainment outlets chasing quick clicks, I might have thrown out a headline like, "Blake Lively loses! Judge tosses out her case!" or "Baldoni's lawsuit crumbles in court." That kind of sensational spin is exactly what we saw from some corners of the media, echoing the narrative pushed by Lively's camp and creating a misleading picture of what actually happened. Many reporters rushed to announce that Baldoni's case was over, fueling a false sense of victory for Blake. But the real story, as it turns out, is much more nuanced and far from finished. Take TMZ, for example. Their first report boldly claimed that Justin Baldoni had missed a filing deadline, suggesting the court dismissed his case due to carelessness or poor legal work. However, the outlet later issued a quiet correction, acknowledging that he had not missed any deadline at all. The correction clarified that while Baldoni could no longer refile the same claims, he still retains the right to appeal once the judge rules on Lively's request for him to cover her attorney's fees. That's a crucial distinction, and one that changes the entire tone of the story. As this case unfolds, it's becoming increasingly clear how misinformation spreads quickly in celebrity legal dramas. Many media outlets have since gone back to revise or retract their earlier stories, though, unsurprisingly, those corrections don't attract nearly the same level of attention as the misleading headlines that came before. For days, social media was flooded with comments mocking Baldoni for supposedly losing, when in reality, his team was simply taking a calculated step in a longer legal process. So, buckle up, Blake. Despite the headlines and online chatter, Justin Baldoni's lawyer has made it clear that the fight is far from over. The It Ends With Us star's $400 million legal battle has not collapsed. It's simply entering its next phase. And as Baldoni's team continues to challenge the narrative, it's becoming obvious that this courtroom drama is only just beginning to heat up. The most recent wave of media coverage surrounding Justin Baldoni's case perfectly illustrates just how skewed and sensationalized celebrity reporting has become. Even now, with all the facts publicly available, including confirmation that no filing deadlines were missed and that Baldoni's legal team made a strategic choice not to amend their complaint in order to preserve appeal rights. The tone of coverage remains deliberately misleading. Many outlets continue to publish headlines that subtly imply defeat, even as they grudgingly admit that Baldoni's legal strategy was sound. Titles such as "Justin Baldoni refuses to back down" or "Baldoni's lawyers respond after case thrown out" might appear neutral on the surface, but they carry an underlying suggestion that he lost yet another round and is simply refusing to let go. This is not only inaccurate, but also intentionally manipulative, feeding a false narrative that appeals to drama rather than truth. Look at how certain platforms have twisted the facts. Headlines like "Lawyers react to dropping Blake Lively defamation lawsuit," "Explain missing deadline to refile" are flat out wrong. There was no missed deadline. Yet these phrases are repeated across dozens of entertainment blogs and social media pages, shaping public opinion before readers even reach the article itself. When corrections eventually come, they're buried at the bottom of the page or edited in silence, long after the original misinformation has gone viral. Sites like Just Jared, Radar Online, and others have all participated in this cycle, creating sensational clickbait that paints Baldoni as desperate or defeated. Even when the language shifts to something more accurate, like Justin Baldoni's lawyer says $4 million lawsuit was delayed intentionally to preserve appeal rights. It still reads as dry and technical, stripped of the emotional intensity that first drew attention to the story. The problem is that the truth rarely gets the same reach as the lie. It's a frustrating yet familiar pattern in Hollywood coverage. When a male actor like Baldoni challenges the narrative or takes a measured legal route, the story is spun to make him look stubborn or defensive, while the opposing party, in this case, Blake Lively, benefits from sympathetic framing and selective reporting. Instead of highlighting Baldoni's composure and strategic patience, the press clings to words like refuses, responds, and back down, as though he's on the losing end of a fight he can't walk away from. The reality, however, is far more sophisticated. His team is simply following the proper legal course, positioning themselves for a potential appeal rather than engaging in reactive moves that could weaken their standing later on. Some of the most egregious examples of this bias can be found in headlines like "Justin's lawyers respond after countersuit formally thrown out by judge," or "$400 million it ends with us lawsuit against Blake. Lively a busted flush due to missed deadlines." These are not only misleading, but also reckless, as they directly misrepresent the court's findings and Baldoni's actions. Radar Online's busted flush headline in particular was a striking example of how absurdly tabloids stretch for attention. The phrasing is not only inaccurate but condescending, designed to frame the situation as a total collapse when, in fact, the case remains active in the appellate phase. This bias reveals a deeper issue. Many of these outlets don't care about accuracy or accountability. What they care about are clicks, engagement, and maintaining access to powerful celebrities. Publications that frequently feature Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds aren't eager to risk those relationships by portraying the couple in an unflattering light, so they keep their coverage skewed, subtly supportive of Lively and dismissive of Baldoni. It's the kind of media hypocrisy that thrives on selective storytelling. As long as the flashy, misleading headline drives traffic, the truth becomes a secondary concern. At this stage, Justin Baldoni's team isn't just fighting a legal battle in the courtroom, they're fighting a war of perception in the public arena. Every misleading headline, every half-corrected post, and every sensational twist contributes to a narrative designed to erode credibility rather than convey facts. Even when his lawyers issue clear and measured statements, the coverage is diluted or reframed to sound defensive instead of factual. And yet, despite all this, Baldoni's side continues to correct the record patiently and professionally, refusing to engage in the theatrics that dominate the entertainment news cycle. Ultimately, what this entire situation exposes is not just a biased portrayal of one case, but a broader flaw in modern celebrity journalism, a system that prioritizes scandal over substance and speed over accuracy. The reality is that Justin Baldoni hasn't lost. He's strategically regrouping. But the media, in its rush for drama, continues to ignore nuance in favor of narrative. Until the press starts valuing truth as much as attention, we'll keep seeing distorted headlines, and public understanding will continue to suffer for it. Some people might, but I'm really talking about Hollywood and the powers that control it. It's honestly shocking. What makes this so chilling is that every time Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, fought back, Blake Lively used it against them. She even tried to seek sanctions against Baldoni's attorney over what she called a pre-trial press tour. In my view, she's been trying to shape the narrative. If she truly has nothing to hide, why not open up her records and let people see? I suspect her team has been pushing out headlines to make it look as though she's already won and Baldoni has lost, all in an effort to influence the public and potentially taint the jury pool. While Baldoni's team has stayed mostly quiet, likely because they know the judge is watching closely, Lively's side has kept stirring things up. In fact, she filed a document urging the judge to sanction Friedman, claiming he made improper out-of-court statements designed to sway jurors. Back in February, at Lively's request, Judge Lyman ordered both sides to follow New York's professional conduct rules, which prohibit personal attacks on the opposing party. But soon after, Lively's team accused Friedman of violating that order, saying that nearly every statement he made was a biased and inflammatory attack on Lively's character and credibility. Fortunately, Friedman's team pushed back. In their response later that month, they argued that his statements fell under clear exceptions in Rule 3. 6. Specifically, those that allow a lawyer to defend their client from substantial prejudicial publicity not initiated by them. In other words, his comments were necessary to counter misleading or damaging narratives being spread publicly. They also pointed out that Lively's own legal team had been running a very public campaign against Baldoni, essentially doing the very thing they were accusing Friedman of. She completely ignores the fact that she was already a highly divisive figure long before Brian Friedman ever entered the picture. Blissfully tone-deaf to her own behavior, Blake Lively refuses to acknowledge that her celebrity status and actions are what sparked the media frenzy she now complains about. Instead, she tries to paint herself as a victim of negative publicity while conveniently overlooking how she and her team have openly criticized Friedman and the Wayfarer defendants in the press. Despite this, she continues to pursue monetary sanctions and other aggressive tactics aimed at silencing anyone who challenges her. It's unsettling, really, and it explains why some earlier headlines were quietly revised. Her opponents have clearly decided to keep a lower profile and focus on the case itself. Meanwhile, Lively's PR team appears to be working overtime, spinning even the smallest developments into supposed victories, all while trying to shape public perception and influence the potential jury pool. The idea that Friedman was the one tainting things by defending his client publicly is absurd, especially given that Lively has been doing the very same thing. Here's the real story that's being buried. Blake Lively just suffered a major loss. The judge has officially dismissed her appeals against social media operative Jed Wallace. This is significant because she had been repeatedly attempting to refile and revive the case with various excuses. But the court made it clear the case belongs in Texas, not New York. Her attempts were rejected outright. Now, she's back to square one and will have to start the process all over again. The rules in Texas are going to be a bit different. And if Blake Lively decides to take Jed Wallace to court there, it could even be televised, though that's not confirmed yet. What's clear, however, is that this process will take much longer to unfold. It's fascinating how this has turned out, especially since Lively didn't win this round, and rightly so. The judge ruled that Wallace, who is based in Texas, cannot be sued in New York because her attorneys failed to establish any significant connection between him and the state. Lively had accused her co-star and director, Justin Baldoni, of conspiring with Wallace to damage her reputation in retaliation for complaints she allegedly raised about misconduct on set. But the court was unmoved. Judge Lewis dismissed the claims against Wallace, noting that New York's long-arm statute only allows out-of-state defendants to be sued if an injury occurred in New York. And even then, defamation claims are specifically excluded to protect free expression. In short, Lively's team couldn't meet the legal threshold. The ruling narrows the case considerably, though it does leave open the possibility for her to refile in Texas, where Wallace actually resides. Whether she'll pursue that path remains uncertain, but if she does, it'll reveal just how determined she is to push this battle forward. For now, her team says she's evaluating her options and remains focused on moving ahead with her claims against Baldoni, Heath, Nathan, and the other Wayfarer defendants. So here's the key point. The case is still ongoing. There's still a trial ahead and it's far from over. That's the reality. It's disheartening to see how quickly so many people, especially over the weekend, accepted the media's narrative that completely threw Justin Baldoni under the bus just to appease the Ryan and Blake camp. It's disappointing and frankly sickening. Yes, people are tired of hearing about this case, and I'm sure Justin and his team are too. They'd probably love nothing more than for it to finally end. But it hasn't, and his reputation remains in tatters. The report that came out yesterday was a huge blow, mainly because it misled casual observers into thinking he had already lost. That kind of misinformation can be devastating, and it raises serious questions about who might be behind it. Why isn't anyone allowed to ask whether Blake's team had a hand in shaping that narrative? And if they did, why are they still permitted to accuse Friedman of doing the very same thing? It's the height of hypocrisy. You can't demand sanctions for supposed media influence while engaging in your own coordinated PR offensive. It simply doesn't make sense, and no one can justify it. For those following this story, stay tuned. The fight isn't finished and there's more to uncover. And for the viewers and supporters out there, make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, and check back regularly. Many of you have said you're not seeing updates, so don't rely on the algorithm. Visit the channel directly and stay engaged. There's a lot more coming up on Popcorn Planet.